Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello and welcome. It's the iRacing Formula 3.5 series. Makes a little turn and heads across to the UK to the mighty, the iconic Silverstone, the home of Grand Prix racing, some may argue. Although definitely some bias from us in the commentary scene, being Brits. I think we would definitely say so. Was reinvigorated when they introduced the new grandstand pit lane. It was that iconic wing design, with it a new track layout. It's going to be interesting, it's going to be fun, it's going to be frantic, and as always, Samina Kula in the production booth, and as always joined by Aaron Smith. Aaron, you've been wheeling it out there, the car this week, haven't you? Having a bit of go in the officials, and in amongst these guys as well, where your rating is definitely a lot stronger than mine, and you weren't far off, were you?
Yeah, but I did have some really good coaching from Ollie, who unfortunately will not be with us today, but don't worry, chaps, he'll be with us next week. And actually, speaking of next week, I'm going to be doing the SOF race, hopefully, and hopefully we'll make it to the end of the race.
Wow.
But yeah, it is really fun to race these cars and go back to, it's like a little time machine, this thing. It goes back to a simpler time in iRacing where we didn't have all these LMP cars, all this IMSA nonsense. It was just some good old fashioned racing with these guys, and it was a lot of fun. And we'll see how it fares out today.
Qualifying well underway, and well, no less than 7 Frenchmen and three Iberians as well to boot. Only the 2 Brits, 2 Japanese, and 3 Americans, and a lonely Canadian in the form of Mark Ponick making it the field. Oh, of course, Eric Wizominski, stalwart Polish representative. However, he's heading in and, well, only getting the 1 lap time on the board with a 1:43.04 at the moment. It's Advantage Shirakawa holding on to pole at 1:41.792 and under a 10th. Carlos Duresho behind him, Samborski a 10th, Hara 2 tenths behind. It's so tight between those top 4. Now, I can remember, well, last time Carlos Duresho, hello, where did that come from? 2 tenths clear of Yuki Shirakawa, making up 2.5 tenths. In fact, on his previous best, it's coming in now, it's happening fast. Mordan goes second for a brand new front row there. between those two. Shirakawa demoted to the second row as Barato joins him. French contingent strong, 3 in the top 5, and well, Samborski demoted all the way down to 6th, third row of the grid with Hara, Ranchon, and well, this is trying to see on the screen right now. Jorge Lopez. They're going to make up your next row, and Dylan Ferguson running at top 10 as Hara just goes 1 higher. He's up into 5th. He still remains on the 3rd row with Tour Monday, but they've just swapped around positions. Dennis Cornu, he heads up into 11th there as well. Jorge Lopez promotes himself, well, not just up 1 place, but also a row ahead from the 5th to the 4th row. It's so nip and tuck these times, aren't they?
Yeah, it is incredibly close, which is what I found out earlier in the week. The week, can't speak. And I got a really good insight into how this thing is driven, and I've sort of earned a new respect for these drivers. You know, before it was sort of, you know, I'd done some testing with the car and I'd obviously driven it in the past, but now that I've gone back and gone wheel to wheel with some of the people in this lobby, it's a spectacular insight, and I respect these guys so much for doing what they do.
There we go. As well, the driver not to set a time is Nicolas Marinelli, the Frenchman. He's going to start from the back of the grid. He had his lap time deleted on lap 1, and the mistake on lap 2 meant he didn't get any time in whatsoever. So he will start from the back. That's your track temperatures and ambient temperatures. So relatively cool, 24 degrees Celsius. That is really cool, to be fair, certainly for iRacing standards, and 23 degrees Celsius ambient air temperatures. It's currently local time 25 to 7 in the evening, and luckily, due to the daylight savings time changes earlier in the month, you haven't got any worry whatsoever about it getting dark. Like what happened in one league race that I did commentate on, where the league admin likes to do things based on real time, and well, I just didn't realise what time the sun set in the winter in England. We had a lovely sunset race, and well, the lights went out right at the end. So, XSLR, well within the history here at Apex Racing TV. But here is your grid. Carlos Teresho starts on pole. Marlon Mordan joins him on the front row. Benjamin Bartow's got Yuki Shirakawa for company on the second row. Third row sees Hara alongside Tula Monday in another Japanese and French row there. Samborski all the way back in for the 4th row. I think that's probably one of his worst, if not his worst qualifying that I've seen, certainly in a long time, definitely this season. He shares 4th row with Jorge Lopez. Ludwig Ranchon's got Dylan Freckleton for company to round out your top 10 in the 5th row of the grid. And then, well, look at that, it's another Anglo-French row with Denny Cornu and Cal Young on row 6. Row 7. See, look at them all lining up, blocking one another perfectly here, aren't they? As 3 Frenchmen, Lionel Mays behind, obviously, his fellow countrymen Ranchon and Cornu on the left side of the grid. Frank Garcia, he's in 14th then. It's on row 7. Mark Ponick and James Byrne with Eric Weisemuski and Jamie Byrne on row 9. And Nicolas Marinel, who mentioned, did not get a time in during qualifying. He will start from the back for Unity. Well, the only way is up for him. I'm just waiting for the last 3 drivers to take to the grid. And then we will be underway for 21 laps here this evening from the UK. Lovely. Just getting, you know, the sun's starting to set. Picturesque for some epic racing. Here in this absolute classic car is the Formula Renault 3.5. Of course, the drivers, as mentioned, as always, have the 8 available DRSs to use. They can use them at any point during the race, as many times per lap. Interesting to see how they utilize them, but everyone is on the grid, and here come the lights. Let's get ready to go racing from Silverstone in Formula 3.5 on iRacing, as we are green and we are away. And not a bad start there from the second row of the grid. I think that's till Monday, just getting a bit loose and dropping some places. No, sorry, it's Yukimi Hara, the 15 machine, who's dropped all the way back down to 9, 4 places off the start. Everyone just making their way through now, down through Village and into the loop. Nobody tripping up over one another in these early stages. Everyone getting away cleanly, but Marlon Mordan is streaking away up the front and already opening up a healthy gap. Someone heads down the Wellington Straight, down towards Brooklands, and tries to flick it in and try and sneak up the inside, or they're going to look right around the outside here as Bartow having to try and find his way and defend from Shirakawa. We know how aggressive the Japanese driver can be, and just what he can pull off and when he's in the moment. As Lionel Mays, I think, has had a bit of an excursion off camera. Oh, he has indeed. And that's put pay to his race, definitely, Aaron.
Well, I was literally just about to say it's a good day to be French, as it seems everyone from France seems to have had a good start, and then Mays had to go and ruin that statistic slightly. But yeah, apart from Mays, yeah, every Frenchman has had a fairly good start, especially for Mordan, who got the jump on Duresho into turn 1. And also Shirakawa might have been able to challenge for the lead. He got an incredible start, as he always does, but just couldn't quite match it. But you know, we mentioned this before a few times over the past few weeks. Zamborski once again struggling down in P7 on pure pace as well. He's not had an incident at all. That was just where he qualified. But he's trying to move back up the field now, fighting for P6 with Lopez as we head on to the second lap.
Last time I can remember being here with this series, it was one crazy race. There was a fair few instances, namely in this part of the track, down in towards Abbey, Farm, Village, the Loop. Well, everyone getting away cleanly this time around, and definitely a good thing to see, and still remaining nip and circle though, running wide there. That was Nicholas Marinel, just getting it all a bit wrong, missing his braking point into Village, had to run it in a bit more deep. That gifted Cal Young place well. Young recovering one place, he's dropped 2 places. Marinel on an absolute flyer, as mentioned, didn't set a time in qualifying, had both his times deleted. He's at 4 places into 15th and definitely progressing. It's only himself and Frank Garcia who've managed to claim more than 3 places. They're both at 4 slots, with James Byrne at 3. There he is right now for Jaeger Racing, up in the 13th. And then other than that, it's just the 1s and 2s that people have climbed. No big movers, with the exception of Mays, who dropped those 6 places off the start.
Yeah, it was a fairly clean start, considering, you know, usually Silverstone tends to be a little bit chaotic off the start. But, you know, apart from Mays, yeah, it was a pretty good start, and not too many incidents at all. And we've got a nicely close packed field for you today, so hopefully we're going to get some good racing. And here's one already. Marinel and Ponick going to blows for P15. Marinel seems to be having the inside line, and he's gotten ahead of the Canadian driver, and qualified a lot lower than he should be, as he set a purple sector 1. So watch out for him. He's going to come through the field like an absolute bullet.
It's all happening just in front of him. Battles plenty. That's Young displacing Freckleton for 13th. James Byrne just ahead of them. And this morning, a bit of a train that's falling away from Denny Cornu is currently in 11th. There he is. The gap between those, probably sitting just around about 1.5 seconds. And this battling is only going to exacerbate and extend that gap between those drivers. And talking of fighting, Freckleton now really having to fend hard from Marinel, who's, you should say, Aaron, qualified out of position by his own standards and his own pace. And ooh, that was close. Had to get on the anchors there as Freckleton full on shut the door right in his face. And well, James Byrne now under a lot of threat from Cal Young. He's going to go right, well, attempt to go right round the outside there of Luffield. And if that had been pulled off, that would have been an amazing move.
Well, it's not an easy overtake through there. I mean, I take my hat off, as I did it a few days ago. But yeah, no, it is, you have to have so much confidence in this car to be able to pull a move off like that. And the way this car gets on throttle is not like anything in iRacing. You have to be very gentle, as James Byrne not being very gentle there through the exit of Beckett, and surely is going to pick up a slowdown and fall right to the back of this pack. And as he does so, he's now down in P17. But yeah, this car, you really do have to treat it with respect on throttle, otherwise you will be met with the wall most likely. And there's Wojciechowski going into the pit lane. He's had some kind of incident, but here's Freckleton and Marinel going to blow. So they've actually made contacts and gotten away with it, which we don't often say that in this series. It's a very sensitive car, but Marinel up into P13.
Zeminski, I do wonder if he's left his qualifying fuel in. We're currently lap 4 out of 21. That's probably about right. And if it is, that is absolutely gutting for the pole and really put pay to his race this time out. And meanwhile, up front, Mordan and Deresho starting to really eke out that gap to Barreto, currently in third. And that gap, 1.5 seconds, sorry, 1.3 seconds. Actually, well, it's actually more close to my original 1.5 seconds. But what can that chasing pack of Barreto, Shirakawa, and Tulamunde do? That's what they're really getting away. And then you've got that next couple of cars, being Samborski and Jorge Lopez. Can we get behind them? And gaps, I'm a little bit surprised at the amount of gaps that are starting to eke out and open up at this stage of the race. I mean, running a lap 4 out of 21. I know it's a long lap around Silverstone at 3.6 miles, 5.9 kilometers. But even so, Aaron, that's a big healthy lead and a big gap to have at this stage of the race.
It is indeed, but one thing I learned as well from doing this race a few days ago is really that DRS, and I've gotten such a better insight into it now. And you really don't use it actually that much at all during the race until the very end. You have to save it as hard as you can, as the slipstream in this car is so powerful. It's not worth using the DRS, and I think Deresho just has to stick behind, firm the dirty air, as it is also incredibly powerful around here. And he's closing that gap fairly well across the start-finish line. It was around 0.3 of a second, and I think he's going to have a really good run as we come out of Village.
Let's find out as they wind the cars up, launch them out through Village, through Aintree, and down the Wellington Straight. Of course, named after the Wellington Bombers that used to be based here at Silverstone. Onto the brakes they come into this. It's such a tricky corner, this, isn't it, Brooklands, where you have to carry so much speed in, but it just really tightens up, and you get it too wide. That really compromises Luffield.
Yeah, Luffield is another tricky corner in this car. It's I think where we saw Mays make a mistake on the opening lap. It's probably the most challenging corner on this track, apart from maybe Cops, which this car can be a little bit skittish through, but yeah, it's going to be a tough race for the chasing pack behind to get more down, as I think track position at a track like Silverstone is probably the way to go instead of being the car behind at a track like Monza or maybe even Fuji, as you can just defend the inside and well, you'll probably still be ahead by the time the lap's over.
Let's find out, I'll tell you what, because that Barreto is starting to just close in a bit now. In fact, that gap is just about to dip under 1 second. It was more like 1.5 seconds. Well, only about a couple of laps to go. The Frenchman working hard to close that down. Meanwhile, well, I was about to say, it doesn't really look like Samborski's catching up too much. What do I know? Just set the fastest lap of the race. Jorge Lopez saying his personal best only 0.2 slower than the new fastest lap of the race. And, well, they are maybe just starting to close in a little bit more, but is it by enough, Aaron? I mean, the gap is shrinking up a bit, and this could turn up into a 7-way fight for the lead. 7.
Yeah, you don't say those kinds of words unless you're talking about ovals usually. 7-car fight for the lead on a road course is unheard of, especially for a series like this, where the dirty air is strong. And yeah, it's absolutely fantastic, and you love to see it as Freckleton and Ponick go wheel to wheel for 14th place. Freckleton seems to have won that battle for now, but Deresho is holding on to Mordan fairly well, and I wonder, maybe does he use a bit of DRS to try and get past, because like I said before, it's not easy to get past here at all, and you do want to save those DRSs, but if he doesn't have an option, he's got to try something to get past. As like I said, track position is the key to defending round here, and he lost it on the opening lap. And there's Freckleton in the wall. I think that's on the exit of Maggots. It is. I wonder if he's had a coming together. And Burn up ahead has also had an off.
That's his own. I was going to say, I heard a screech of tyres. And, well, that was clearly Byrne having his own separate incident. I think they've both managed to keep him out of the wall, but, wow, they're right to the back, and that's gutting for those two. course, that's Jamie Byrne. Of course, James Byrne was the one who was involved in the few incidents that picked up that slowdown early on. Jamie was running pretty well and lost all those places, so that's absolutely gutting for him. Maybe there is damage to Freckleton's car because, there we go. It comes into view. Doesn't help for us poor commentators when you have dark paint schemes to spot when you've got no rear engine cover missing. It's a bit hard to tell. That's what you need. It's one like Marlon Mordan's. Nice and bright. Jorge Lopez, the fastest lap of the races. Carlos Durescio squeezes and nearly trips up over Marlon Mordan there. And that's now brought Barto right into the clutches. And maybe it's Mordan given that space that he needs. As Hara and Garcia scrapping their way over ninth trading places. We're not far off being that 7-car fight, are we? We're not far away from it. It's coming together nicely. You know, we've mixed all the ingredients together. We've put it in the oven. It's just baking nicely. We're not far off it being complete and taking it out.
Yeah, we're probably around, I'd say, 5 or 10 minutes from it being done, and then we can start rubbing our hands together and predict who's going to start winning this race. As well, speaking of which, Mordan has maybe put a little bit extra on that timer, as he's pulled out an absolutely immense gap. I think he might have actually used some of his DRS there, as he gained, I think, around 0.3 of a second just down the straight there going into Stowe. And it's a smart play to try and get out of that crucial slipstream, but you know, it might come back to bite him at the end of this race.
It will too indeed. That gap out to a second lap, 8 out of 21. Just over half race distance here. Sorry, third race distance even from Silverstone. As Durescio, I think he's had a mistake there. He has. And he falls from second down to 7th, just in front of Ranchon. And that's down a village. Spoke about it earlier. Of course, it was the site of many ends, and last time I was here with this series, and too much speed.
Yeah, just simply too much speed, and I mean that's what you got to do when you're in second. You got to push this car to the limit, and like Oliver has said a few times over the past few weeks, you are on the limit of this car constantly, and if you step just a tiny bit over that limit, you're gonna end up facing the wrong way. And unfortunately, this 7-car battle has rather turned into a 5-car battle for second place, and it's rather spoiled it, but we've still got some great racing on our hands.
I mean, it's gutting for us as, the neutrals watching this long, but Marlon Mordan, well, you are feeling like it's all your Christmases come at once, because you now have a 1.8 second gap. You've broken the draft. However, we're on for a bit of an interesting statistic, and I think the first time we've seen it in this series, we're well on for, if Tulamonde can get past Shirakawa, a French lockout of the podium here at Silverstone. That ought to be something to see, if the Frenchmen can lock out first, second, third. At the moment, Mordan Barto in those first and seconds, Tulamonde just behind Shirakawa, only 3 attempts though, so it is close. But what does Shirakawa do? Is he going to really get in front of Barto and disrupt the patterns emerging? But don't discredit Saborski, he's got pace, we all know that. Likewise, Jorge Lopez. What can Carlos Durescio do? Although I've just spotted that gap, nearly 2 seconds. I think ultimately where he's going to try and bring those tyres back in, well, those rears are going to be cooked. I mean, I think that's game over for him. Any chance of fitting the shot on the podium, bar a complete and utter catastrophe in front of him.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he's rather thrown away his chances, mostly, of getting a good result in this race. But P7 still isn't bad, but I mean, obviously, it's nowhere near where he wants to be. He had the pace, and just a few mistakes has cost him a chance of possibly winning this British race. But yeah, he's just got to hold on for now, and hope, as you said, that maybe something happens up ahead, maybe that they start fighting and he can crawl back into the fight. But it's going to be asking a lot, and maybe he might have to push a little bit. But as you can see there, without getting in the slipstream, he's just losing a chunk of time on the straights.
It's not helping whatsoever, is it? It has brought the gap down from 2 seconds down to 1.8, maybe that 1.7. And if they all start battling, it could well be brought back into it. And not from, with Hara and Garcia right along behind him. This really, really could go. Anyway, sorry, Ranchon as well in there too. Apologies. So, still plenty more chance to turn this one into an absolute epic battle for the ages. We've already entered it quite early on, to my surprise, that calm down, quiet part phase of the race. Normally, it's somewhere around half race distance, but on this occasion, Silverstone.
Yeah, not this time round. And I think Silverstone is slightly different than most other tracks that we've experienced on the calendar this season, as it has a lot of fast sweeping corners, doesn't have too many heavy braking zones, only has a few of them, but they're all medium to high speed corners compared to a lot of other tracks that we've had this season that have been kind of in between. I mean, you know, the likes of Fuji, they're kind of the opposite to this track. But, yeah, I mean, Silverstone has kind of always been its own thing. And, you know, that's why we Brits are so patriotic about this track. It's an absolute God's gift to the racing world. And as Tim said, it's the home of motorsport and is loved by many. And, well, these drivers hopefully are loving it out there right now. As Lopez as well, just focusing on that gap. Up there for the battle for second, he's fallen away from that pack as well and is kind of falling back into the hands of Duresho. So yeah, just those gaps just getting bigger and bigger as we enter half race distance.
We're talking the rest of the epic tracks and such like with these cars. Next week it's Monza, then Hockenheim, Imola, Hungaroring, and Barcelona, Catalonia. But it's on the historic layout, which is I think, it's the better one. Better racing around there with that, where you miss out that clunky last chicane, which is never removed in, well, not in, certainly in F1 in real life. They're not utilising that anymore. Gap at the top between Bartow and Mordan has come down ever so slightly to around about 1.4 seconds. So they're starting to chip away at it. It was around about 1.8 a few laps ago. So just ever so slightly, just nibbling away at that. It was, oh no, Monday from third. From fourth, he's gone. He waits an Asia, everyone's come past and well, he's gonna suck in. Well, it's down at, yeah, I mean, it's down to 11th now.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, is that corner is so deadly on throttle if you get it wrong. And you just have to be patient with the car. You don't want to over push it, otherwise, well, you'll end up facing the wrong way. And here's another replay of what happened to Duresho into there. Again, just another incident of just taking too much speed and how easily it is to unsettle this car. And Tillemont will be absolutely kicking himself. As well, if you're French today, you're either doing incredibly well or not as well as you'd hoped.
So this is on board with Thomas Tillemont. See how he, just lights up the rear. It just went on him. He nearly got the car straight as well. That's really surprising.
Yeah, there it seemed like he was being really gentle on throttle. Then kind of thought he had the car straightened up enough to give it a bootful, but just gave it a bit too much of a bootful and ended up spinning out. And yeah, that's just a little bit aggressive on throttle, I'd say. Just needs to be a little bit more careful from here on out, as he would have cooked those tyres to a crisp, and they are probably at this point during the race starting to melt. As we discussed before, these tyres rather feel like squares more than circles. But yeah, nevertheless, the cars out in front are handling it well enough, and we've got a French 1-2 at the moment.
We have not looking good to have that podium lockout of French drivers here. However, not made any moves on track yet have Lopez and Samborski, but they are at 3 places due to mistakes from other drivers. And now brought right into the fight, and well, can sense maybe a chance at the podium. Bartow taking more time out of Mordan. Look at that. That's down to a second now. Definitely, definitely. I caught him doing it there. Benjamin Bartow utilising one of his 8 available DRSs, and I think he's been doing that the last few laps down the Hanger Straight.
Yeah, I think that gap to Mordan was a bit too much, but Mordan's playing this one a little bit smarter. He's not falling into the trap of using his DRSs as well. He's keeping them to be able to defend, as Bartow does set the new fastest lap of the race. And he's got some good pace on him right now, but like I said before, maybe using DRS is a little bit too much too early. But I also did say, you've got to do something if you want to close that gap.
You have. And I think he's just looking to maybe get ahead of him. And I would assume, Aaron, from your experience earlier in the week, that the track position you mentioned earlier being so key, is it get ahead of Mordan and then just sit there and act like the perennial roadblock?
Yeah, that's pretty much what you got to do. Yeah, as me and Ollie were doing a little bit of fun during the week, just driving around here, having a bit of racing action, and yeah, basically how Ollie stayed ahead is just be incredibly aggressive. Yeah, I mean, it's what you got to do. You just have to basically hold the inside line, make practically no mistakes, and outbrake your opponent pretty much every time, and you'll be golden. And it's a tough job and a risky job at that. You got to trust that your opponent won't just drive into you, but it's what you got to do to stay ahead. And I believe Shirakawa there's using his DRS.
No, I don't think he was. I could see a very.
It's difficult to tell.
It's not very clear, like like in Formula One, where the rear wing opens up and there's a great big yawning gap. It's a flap that actually shuts on these, which causes the rear wing to stall, but then decreases drag. So pretty much the opposite to what we're normally used to seeing in real life machinery. However, it works to absolutely great effect. But I could just see a very thin sliver of green between the gap of where it would fit. When it is open, you can see obviously the track going past them as they race their way down. I think was it down Wellington? I think it was. No, apologies, it was down Hanger Straight.
This is the Wellington Straight, then.
It is, yes, it was down the Hanger Straight. Apologies, me having a slight senior moment there. But Shirakawa is in fact jumping off the back of Bartow, but something's happened further down through the field as Haras and Duresio and Lopez all swapping around. What has happened there? They seem all tripping up over one another a little bit.
Yeah, not quite sure what happened there. I could have sworn Hara was ahead of both of them, but yeah, oh dear, there's some aggressive defending from Rancon, and well, there you go.
Garcia comes off West. Ranchon comes off West. Garcia keeps going again. Oh, and a little bit of Ranchon goes from bad to worse for him. Not the day he was hoping for, but look who he's just come out around. I mean, Marinal from the back of the grid, up 8 places so far, up into 11. He's on an absolute flyer. He's one of the 7 Frenchmen.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a very mixed bag if you're French right now. It's you're either 1-2 in the race or you're kind of in the mid pack, but it's oddly satisfying seeing all the French people lined up in the same place. I mean that kind of sounded mean. I'm not saying it's satisfying seeing you guys in the midfield. I'm saying I'm digging myself a hole.
Don't worry, Aaron. I've got the JCB on call. It's heading straight out to you to dig that hole. What you're saying is for fans of patterns.
Yes.
You've got them all, in a little gaggle together. I think I've saved you nicely there. So you've got Corby, Solomonde, Marinal, and Ranchon all line us there 9th through to 12th right now. And as you were saying, it's either big wins or big losses for them. So Corny's up 2 places, Solomonde's down 4, Marinal's up 8, and Ranchon is down 3 from where they started. This is interesting for me. Shirakawa definitely reluctant to use his DRSs like Bartow was earlier in the race. So he's elected to save them for later in the race. Equally, Samborski hasn't utilised his because he hasn't streamed past Shirakawa. It's mind games, isn't it? Bartow's closed that gap down to 7:10 to make that 6:10. And also, let's not forget that gap was out of pretty much 2 seconds. What, 5 laps ago? 6 laps ago?
Yes.
But Mordan has, obviously, where he's clearly not been utilising his CRS, he's got them left all up his sleeve, hasn't he? So, it's so hard to tell how this would... I mean, I get the feeling maybe if Shirakawa could just pick up the pace that little bit more, saying that just goes slower than Bartow last time around, let's see, you know, Bartow could end up fading away and losing that place on the podium later on this race. Having said that, we've only got 5 laps left to go due to the long lap length that is Silverstone.
Yeah, and I did notice that during the races, during the week, that oddly, this race kind of flies by. It seems a lot shorter than it should be. And you know, we get some good racing action because of it. Excuse me, but yeah, this race really has just absolutely gone by, and I've got 5 laps left, and I think as long as Mordan can just keep it together and utilize his DRS pretty much to a T, I think he's got this one in the bag. I mean, I've said that before, and then people chuck it into a wall. So, you know, maybe I should stop talking and stop jinxing people because I've done it enough this season, especially in Radical, that I would feel so bad if I cost someone else a win.
I don't worry about it. Don't worry. It's Apex Racing Team Pro Driver Owen Carroll who joined me a few Sundays ago on his commentary debut, and it took him 2 minutes to invoke the curse of the commentator to his debut. So it happens to the best of us. But those 16 laps complete. Mordan leads from Bartow, Shirakawa last podium place, Samborski behind him. There's Derecho, Lopez, Hara, Garcia, Cornu to Monday to round out the top 10. Then Marinal, Ranchon, Leung, Poddick, Byrne. That is in 15th. James Byrne with Lionel Mays. 16th, Jamie Byrne 17th, and Wyrzymski in 18th. After coming into the pits, he got going again. Still remained on the lead lap as well, although it is well down on Jamie Byrne ahead of him. Dylan Ferguson, our only retired him, lost him all the way back on lap 6. So here we go. I think this is maybe the time, isn't it, where Samborski, fed up at looking at the back of Shirakawa's car, feeling like he needs to do something to stop the cars getting away from in front of him. What can he do? It's going to take something big, but equally, this plays into Shirakawa's hands, where it's been a game of poker, isn't it? Both drivers holding their cars really close to their chests, neither wanting to blink first, because they know full well what's going to happen to whichever car does end up in front.
Yeah, you know, when you got a race like this on your hands, it is more mind games between each driver, and you know, we know how quick Samborski is, but is he quick enough is the question. And you know, you just don't know how many DRSs does he have, how many does Baratow, Shirakawa, Mordan have. It's a guessing game. You just don't know, and I guess that's why we all love motorsport. Is it's so unpredictable, and you just have no clue what happens next. And especially when you watch esports, you love to watch pretend car go round and round in circles for 21 laps, but it's still racing, and it's absolutely beautiful to watch. And there's Baratow setting a new fastest lap of the race, around a 10th of a second quicker than his French compatriot, just 7/10 ahead of him, and that's Cao Young. That looks very weird.
That's down at Stowe, isn't it? The only thing I can think of is it just snaps on him. Let's find out. Let's find out from the replay exactly how the Brits managed to do this. It's home round. Does he catch? Ooh, that's big twitch. As soon as he touched that like AstroTurf on the exit of the corner, just beyond the red and black and striped curbing, just really just twitch on him. The car didn't like it at all.
Yeah, I think from that corner as well on the exit can be a bit touch and go, as on the exit you do have to ease the throttle on and maybe just given it a little bit of a bootful too early. As you know, we're coming towards the end of the race. These tyres are going to be screaming out for help, and maybe he's just been asking a bit too much of the car at this stage in the race, and has paid the price for it, unfortunately. But yeah, we've seen quite a few mistakes this race, a bit uncharacteristic. But you know, that's what Silverstone can do to you. It's not an easy track, but when you get it right, it's absolutely perfect. And yeah, it's an absolute joy to drive.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it, with these drivers? They're pushing so incredibly hard. They're right on the limit of adhesion that when it does go wrong, it goes wrong in a big, big way. Still on Monday, really applying the pressure for the countryman Denny Cornu just ahead of him. But yeah, it goes on in spectacular style. And normally it's a one-way ticket to the barrier or wall that you're purchasing. When it does happen, and it's race ending.
Yeah, this is also kind of a problem when you get to the higher stages of motorsport, especially in high downforce cars. Is, you know, the faster and faster you go, you know, you make a mistake and it can easily put you into a wall. Whereas, you know, if you make a tiny mistake in a Mazda MX-5 or a Formula Ford or something, you know, you have a fairly high chance of keeping it out of the wall. But something's happened to Yuki there, as Simone kindly pointed out, as he's lost a lot of time. I think maybe giving it a boot for the exit of turn 3, you're about to find out. And yes, just again asking too much of the car.
It didn't even seem like it was bootful on the exit, because he lost it in the sort of mid part of the entry into the corner where you swing in and
it's Barretto.
No, and Samborski has to slow right up, and then all of a sudden, well, this is handing surely the race to Mordan, but now it's flipped on its head in terms of that battle for second. Shirakawa is back in live pictures, is back into the fight despite that half spin where Samborski gets to throw out the anchor to miss Barretto, who was parked sideways across the track, and now having to bring his tyres back into play, ease them back in after that spin. So all of a sudden just got a little bit more interesting, didn't it?
Yeah, we really are seeing a lot of mistakes from drivers today, and I think pretty much everyone apart from Mordan and Zamborski has made some kind of mistake today. And yeah, that just proves how challenging it is with this track and car combination. It ain't easy, and I'm telling you that from personal experience. It really is not. And no, that's Zamborski there making a mistake. I've eaten my own words. Literally 10 seconds ago, I said he hadn't made a mistake, and there's the commentator curse for today.
Done.
Great.
Right, that's you checked out, isn't it?
Goodbye.
Aaron.
Leaving.
Wow.
Bye.
There we go. Mordan, now the only driver yet to make a mistake. Let's take a look at the replay to see how all unfolded. On board with Samborski on the brakes. He's a bit loose, getting further in the throttle, gives it a boot fall, and then, well, the car just on a bit of a path to the right-hand side where it hadn't quite balanced out. Has to get onto the brakes. Loses all of that time, and it's all gone wrong from being gifted second place. It's now down to 6th. Then it's all, now Barretto is back up into 2nd. Mordan leaves by 4.8 seconds. And Shirakawa back up into the podium positions as well. Duresho, let's not forget Carlos Duresho, who was down in that. Oh, Dennis Cornelius had a big incident. There we go. I saw him just tumble down through the timing tower. Well, it's been a bit of a curse for the. We say, you know, lauding plaudits onto the many French drivers that we've had turn up for this round here in the iRacing Formula 3.5 series, and well, I don't know whether we've evoked a bit of curse commentator onto him. It's not been that way. Mordan, his white flag's in the air. He's got 1 lap left to go as he exits out of entry and heads down the Wellington Straight. Just needs to hold it all together, bring it home. He's got 4.6 seconds, the advantage over Barretto behind him. And this is just about just making sure you get the car home in one piece. No mistakes whatsoever. And this victory is yours. Meanwhile, That battle for second place, that's going to go down to the wire. Between Baruto, Shirakawa, Doresho, who span out from, what, second place early on, third place? Is that back in the equation of landing himself on the podium? Jorge Lopez. Samborski's not too far from behind him, but he's at the back of that train. It's a 5-car train fighting out over 2 places on the podium. Who's going to get them? That is what we're looking forward to finding out in around about half a lap's time. As they're all going to have to dig deep to find something. As Mordan down the hangar straight through Stowe. Only got, what, 2 more corners left to go. And there is Baruto, and I don't think he's going to be caught as much as Shirakawa is going to give this a good go. Mordan just bumbling across the curves. It doesn't matter because he's going to bring it home. He's going to take the victory here from Silverstone. Congratulations, Marlon Mordan, who's going to pick up second as we watch him come across the line in the background. And wow, squirrely and snaking, but you got it across the line, didn't you, Benjamin Baruto? Doesn't matter how you do it, it's just about achieving it. And Shirakawa picks up a third. Wow. It was like nobody wanted to be second.
Yeah, it was really strange. It's just, if you were in second place, you had some kind of curse. You know, we had
definitely the cursed position.
You know, we had Doresho, Shirakawa, Baruto, Zamborski, just everyone making mistakes.
Monday, they were all up there at one stage or another, and got there, and well, it all fell apart for them. Absolutely devastating. But in the end, it's Benjamin Baruto who gets it. As I mentioned, Shirakawa last place on the podium. Wow. Wow. Well, let's wait for the last few drivers come across the line, then we can bring you some classified results here from Silverstone. What has been a, well, absolutely enthralling race. I was a little bit worried, Aaron, I won't lie. When it got to that early, it all came down very early on, around about lap 5, and I thought, maybe we're in for a bit of a quiet one tonight. Maybe we won't have any magic, any moments. Well, the driver said, hold my beer, watch this, and it all kicked off. It all got a little bit crazy. But this is why we love this series, and it is great entertainment for the neutrals.
Yeah, I mean, it's why we love motorsport. It's you just don't know, and like you said, 1 minute you're thinking something can happen, the next minute the complete opposite to what you thought was going to happen happened. And yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Even though we didn't get a fight for the win, you just couldn't predict what was going to happen next, and it delivered.
Let's take you through some classified results here from Silverstone. Marlon Mordan takes the victory over Baruto Shirakawa on the podium. That's Carlos Doresho, Jorge Lopez, Samborski, Hara Garcia Tulamonde, and Nicolas Marinel to round out your top 10. That's not too bad for the Frenchman. 4 places out of the top 10. Then it's Ludovic Ranchon, Ponick. He had a good drive. Marinel, incidentally, the highest position climber. He was at 9 in the end. Then we've got James Byrne, 13th. Good recovery from him. Cal Young, Denny Cornu. Disappointment, that one incident really costing him dearly. Lana Mace, Jamie Byrne, 17th. Eric Wisminski, who I believe only put in qualification fuel, and that's what really cost him today. He would have been fighting in the midfield, definitely, with the pole. Dylan Freckleton, like that one incident, that crash cost him, and he retired the car all the way back on lap 6. Wow. Wow. Aaron, I mean, what a race. All interesting, and well, I'll roll reversal. I'll let you have the, well, first and so far only person popping in for a bit of a chat with us in terms of interviews.
Oh, why am I oddly terrified? But nevertheless, we've got 6th place man, Eddie Zamborski, and, well, Eddie, we were saying this, it seemed like that 2nd place was rather cursed, you know. Whoever ended up in that place just ended up making some kind of mistake, and towards the end of that race, the car looked like hell to drive.
Yeah, I don't know if I missed a setup or what. It was not friendly all race. I was absolutely wheeling it as best I could. and the mistake was just my own doing. I looked in the mirror, I ran wide, I got offline, and then I throttled up trying to get into position, and I didn't remember that I was offline, so naturally that created a problem. So it would have been much better to get to second place. This will be a drop week, so can't afford too many more.
Yeah, not the race you were rather hoping for. But to be fair, did you rather think that being in that fight for the podium spots? Do you think considering how low down you qualified, do you think it was a bit lucky to get there, or did you just have really good race pace?
No, it was pure luck. I did a decent lap in qualifying, but I did not have a 41.5 in me. I don't know what everyone's doing to find the time. I couldn't do it all week. I had a decent race last race, but when I saw those times, I was like, yep, we're going to be deep in the field. I mean, I drove smart, well, minus the incident. Apart from that, I drove smart and positioned the car well. I would have rather have not lost the time when whoever was in second place spun on in front of me. I thought they were going to go hit the gas and throttle up, and they actually did what you're supposed to, which surprised me. And that eliminated my gap to Yuki, which led to the mistake because I had no DRS left, so I knew I was going to get past, so I didn't have a gap. So I was like, well, what's the difference if you go for it now or if they go by you later? So it was just a little too much there, and the go fast pedal, and I would have got fourth regardless. They would have drove around me. So.
Well, it was still an absolute pleasure to watch you come through the field, nevertheless, and you drove a pretty good race, I'd say. But going into next week at Monza, that should be a very interesting round. Do you think you'll fare a little bit better there, or do you think it'll be much of the same?
It's going to be exactly the same. I'll probably start 8th or 9th. I don't have a high downforce set that works, and that's what everyone uses in qualifying. And we'll get to the race, and it's just going to be gridlock, just like today. I mean, you just can't. I mean, I was asking Yuki to use DRS in the middle of the race because you can't go anywhere. You're just stuck. I can't stand coming here or Monza or any of these other places where you're gridlocked. I can't believe people vote for it, but that's my opinion. Not a lot of people like it.
Yeah, well, after driving a few times during the week, I can definitely understand your frustrations, Eddie. But before we let you go, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yes, I'd like to thank Mark Panek and his Discord. I don't remember the name. They're helping new drivers on Monday nights. They set up a paid-for session. You don't have to pay to join, meaning they're hosting a server. They're offering free tips. So if you're new to the car, I mean, head in there. It's every Monday night. American hours, I think 6 to 12. I got to thank Apex. We have a few more donators. We'll have a broadcast next week, and then a week off, and we'll be back for week 10, I believe.
Well, Eddie, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, and just keep your head held high, mate, and good luck for next week.
Thank you. I'll be many hours. We'll see what happens.
Cheers, Eddie.
That's Eddie Sambolski there. Only picking up a 6th, real off week for him. Struggling with the car. Well, a bit of a disappointment for him, but well, that's all we've got time for here this week. What a drama-filled week it has been. Nobody wanted second. In the way, in the end, Benjamin Bartow ended up picking it up with Shokar third, and congratulations, Marlon Mordan, on that commanding victory. Never looked like he's going to put a front one, did the Frenchman. Well, I've been Tim Cox with Aaron Smith and Samula Kume. We'll see you in a week's time where we'll be live from Monza on iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship. See you then.